Hey guys, welcome to Double D's RCs. My name is Don. If you're new to the channel, please like all of our other videos, or watch them and like them I should say, and subscribe to the channel if you like radio controlled stuff. Today I'm going to show you my piece of crap here. This is a Traxxas two-wheel drive. It's got a ton of hours on it. I drive this thing at least 3 to 4 times a week, and it's definitely beat, and I love it. I break stuff on it sometimes here and there, but usually it's pretty trustworthy. I blasted this thing off here, a bearing carrier, I guess is what you call it. It it snapped the pin in half, and then kind of fucked up everything. So I took that off, but that was completely my fault. I rammed into a piece of 6x6 wood coming down from a jump, and yeah, so that was all me. Same as this one. I did it again, real smart. Instead of moving the wood, I just hit this one ramp and launched it kind of sideways and landed right down on the front end and snapped this sucker right off. No big deal. I have more of these laying around, and like I said, it's my fault. It's not the truck's fault at all. If you don't hit shit like that, then it doesn't break. Today I'm going to go ahead and take these shocks off, front and rear, and I'm going to change the oil out on them. I haven't done that in a while. I'm just going to go ahead and switch it out. What I'm going to put in there, this is what I've been running, is 50 weight Team Losi shock oil. There's tons of different oil weights, so I mean you can pick and choose. Over the years I've tried different things. I bought a set from Team Losi that was like 20 through 45, I think, or 20 through 40. But the stiffer oil, or the thicker oils I should say, seem to work better for my situation. I do medium jumps, nothing crazy. I don't launch it 50 feet into the field or nothing. I typically do 5-foot jumps, something like that, as far as like how much air I'm getting. The ramps themselves are typically only about 2 feet tall, because I keep it all on like a track, so I'm not launching it down the middle of a field, and trying to get the highest air ever, or sending it like everybody says. I don't really send my truck. I hate that term for some reason. I don't know why it bothers me. But I just drive it, and I race it on my track, and I have a blast. Whole front end's loose as shit. It's not wheel bearings like everybody says. It's all these, I think they're called hollow balls, or these little pivot balls. They wear out after a while. You can switch them out if you want, but this thing's handling fine over really rough, loose dirt, so I'm not going to do it until they break. I can still handle very well, and it's just not worth it to me. I have another set of all these turnbuckles and toe links and everything, so when they actually break, I'm going to go ahead and do it. Another thing that people always say that's loose is your turnbuckle down here. Or not turnbuckle, Jesus, I can't remember what it is. All your steering down in here. It comes stock with bushings. I switch those out for bearings. I check them periodically. They're fine. This is a slash, like I said, so I've got a couple of them, and they seem to just loosen up over time. And if you are racing on like a professional track with other people that are running better trucks, yeah, you're going to want to get this all buttoned up, tightened up, all that kind of stuff. But if you're in the backyard bashing on a track that you made or whatever, and you're just racing against other, pretty much just bashers, then this kind of stuff is not going to affect what you're doing. I can get speed out of this thing. I can make it do wheelies if I want. I can jump. I can, turn perfectly fine. So for me, I do want to do the shock oil just because I feel like it's sagging a little more and not rebounding as much as I would like. So that's about it. This is the front of the vehicle. First step is to take off the shocks. So there's upper mounts and the lower mount. There's just 2 screws. Take those off and remove it off of the vehicle. Alright, after you have your shock off of the vehicle, what you're going to want to do now is take the spring off. How you do that is you grab a hold of the lower end of the shock. You compress the spring. There's a little keyway here. You slide this keyway out. And then this piece comes off. Now you just slide your spring off. You're going to have a top spacer here, or I guess this is a retainer. This keeps the spring from moving off of the shaft or off of the shock body. And then I run 1 spacer in the front to change the ride height, and I just like the way it drives with it. Okay, so now all that's off. What I'm going to go ahead and do is just check and see. See, there's no rebound at all right now, and there should be. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this first, and then I'm going to take it apart and refill it with oil. Alright, now I just have it cleaned up. What I'm going to do next is take the top cap off. I'm going to unscrew it. Sometimes it's a little bit tough, so you can use one of your hex heads and just grab a hold of it and try and spin it. Just so you can get a little extra grip. You just stick it through that hole there and unscrew it. Now what I did on these are okay, so let me explain this, I guess. So these are Ultra Shocks. They come stock on the Traxxas Slash, and maybe other models too, but I know they definitely come on the Traxxas Slash. I switched out the stock shafts here with the I think it's called titanium nitride coating or something, hardened steel, because the original stock ones they have a tendency to bend if you take some pretty hard hits, where these have not had them bend yet after I changed them out. There's 2 different lengths, so the front ones are going to be the long and the rear ones are going to be the extra long. Traxxas sells them. You can find them aftermarket. If you're going to keep the Ultra Shocks, definitely do this. And then the other thing is change out the plastic caps to metal ones, because the plastic ones pop off on hard landings and it just becomes annoying. So these are cheap, and then after you do that cap and the shaft, these shocks are actually pretty good shocks. If you don't want to, buy something better, I do have a set of GTR shocks on my backslash, but for now on my regular 2-wheel drive Slash, these perform and handle great. I haven't had them break, no caps pop off anymore, no bent shafts, so well worth investing a little bit of money into them. Alright, so now we get to see what this fluid looks like. When you take the cap off, there's going to be a little diaphragm on the top. When we put it back together, we have to make sure that that's all intact and good. And look at that stuff, man. It's like paste. Oh my gosh. That's some thick ass shit right there. Nasty. So yeah, you want to get all that out, and then what you're going to want to do next is take the actual shaft off, and then we're going to clean it out and refill it with fresh oil. The way I do this is with a pair of side cutters. I grab right next to this upper, actually the lower shock mount, okay. I hold on to it securely so it doesn't spin out, and then I unscrew the lower mount of the shock. Once you get that off, now you can push the shock shaft through. Now you're going to want to make sure there's some spacers in there, and you want to make sure that they stay where they're supposed to be at. I don't take this, you can take this bottom cap off also, and there's little spacers and washers in there. I'm not going to change, I'm not rebuilding these shocks, I'm just changing the fluid. You can also buy a rebuild kit and actually rebuild the shock with all of the washers and spacers. I'm not doing that though, not this time. It's not leaking, so I'm just changing the fluid. That's the only reason I'm doing this. Alright, another thing, I've never bought a new Traxxas. I've always bought used, but I have acquired a few different of these top spacers. I'm not sure what the exact terminology is. You can find it in on their website, I'm sure, for the exact terminology. But there's a few different styles to the best of my knowledge. You'll see these little holes here. Those are where the fluid transfer actually takes place. So I have 2-hole and 3-hole ones. This is a 2-hole. I haven't really noticed a benefit of doing the 3 holes. I've tried it here and there, you know, when I've rebuilt them. Like I said, once again, I'm just bashing. If you're on a track, this is a completely different story. Like if you're trying to race, you know, against other dudes and trying to be first place, then all these little things that I'm telling you about are probably going to matter as far as fluid transfer, weight, you know, all this shit. But for me, once again, I know I say it a lot, but I just really, these videos I make are just more like how things work and what they look like. They're not, I'm not giving you racing advice or the, you know, the best possible way to get the fastest time on the track and, you know, yada yada yada. I'm just telling you how these things work, how to maintain them, and how to keep you having fun out on the dirt, you know. So you can try different settings, you know. Try the 3-hole, see if you like it better. 4-hole maybe. I don't know if they make one. Maybe they have bigger holes or smaller holes. I'm not sure. This is a stock one and it works fine for me. Now that I have everything pretty much cleaned up, I'm going to reassemble the shock. So I'm going to start off by getting the shaft back through the body. And then you're just going to reattach it the same way you took it off. You want to be careful not to damage the shaft at all. So I don't really hold this too tight. You don't need to yet until you get it started. And you can even use like a paper towel in there to kind of soften the grip on the shaft. But this has worked for me perfectly fine. And then you just want to make sure you screw it all the way in. Alright. Now when you're doing this next part, when you're actually adding the fluid, you're going to want to have something to stand it up on or in, you know, that helps it from falling over. Sometimes I just wing it, but you may want to try and like some of the stands, the RC stands will have little holes cut out to them where you can drop a shock into it, but it's just more of a pain in the ass than anything to me. So now you're going to want to just fill up the shock. I fill it up close to the top. And then what you're going to want to do is slowly move the shock up. what you're trying to do now is just get any air that's trapped in there out. So you want it to be, you know, essentially fluid in there and not air. So if you work it back and forth slowly, you'll see air come out. And then you can let it sit too for, you know, half hour if you don't feel like, if you're not in a rush or anything, just let it sit. And all these little tiny bubbles will come out eventually. So the next step is putting the diaphragm on. Now, I've just kind of gathered all this information on my own and watching other YouTube videos, but I used to put the diaphragm into the cap itself and then try and screw it on. I'm going to try it a different way today. I'm going to push the shaft up into the body, and I'm going to try and put this diaphragm on the body itself while pulling down on the shaft, and I'm going to see if it sucks it in. Oh, look at that. I have found a problem. So, that's another reason to take things apart and look. This diaphragm has a rip in it. So, that's junk, and we're going to have to get another one. So I have a few different rebuild kits laying around. It's a good thing to stock up on stuff before you start getting into it, because if you run into a problem like that, you'll probably have a spare piece somewhere. So I'm going to get that out and we're going to use a new one. Alright, so now with the new diaphragm, like I said, I don't know about this, but I'm going to try this. I'm going to try and pull it down into it. And then I'm going to screw this onto the top. I don't know about this. We're going to find out. So now it's rebounding on its own. I think I want it a little bit, just a touch more, so I'm going to try putting a little more oil in there and see what that does. I'm also going to look at that diaphragm and see if how it's laying in there. Yeah, it seemed to lay pretty good. So I'm just going to do a touch more oil, not much. Alright, let's check this again. It fully returns, so I think I'm going to let it go like that there. So what you have to remember is the shock itself doesn't hold the weight of the vehicle. You know, this dampens how the shock, you know, how the suspension reacts. So you can't, I don't think you're going to want it so damn stiff to where you try and push it and it's fighting you. You know, you're going to want, I want full travel on mine. I want mine to go all the way in and all the way out, but I want it to be dampened, you know. So this is dampening. Now the spring is going to control how it sits on the vehicle, your ride height. You know, it's more of support, where this is dampening how the springs and how the suspension moves up and down, and when you're going over bumps, how does it reapply pressure up and down. So now I'm just going to go ahead and put this back on together. I'm going to put my upper spacer on first. Put your retainer ring. Put your spring. Now you're going to compress the spring. Find your little keyway there. Put it over the shock shaft. And then now your shock is rebuilt. Or not rebuilt, it's just got fresh fluid. Yeah, that feels way better. Alright folks, now you just gotta do the other 3 and you know, put them back on the vehicle and go out and drive it. Once again, thanks for watching. Look out for our other videos, and please like and subscribe. Thank you.